Ladies and gentlemen, as the sun rises and the world awakens, we are given a sacred moment, a moment to pause, to breathe, and to surrender our hearts to the one who carries the weight of our burdens. Today, I invite you to join me in a journey of reflection, of hope, and of divine peace. In the quiet of this morning, we lift our prayers not to change God, but to allow God to change us, not to remove our challenges instantly, but to guide our hearts toward serenity, trust, and unshakable peace. Let us open ourselves to His grace as we seek to lay down our worries and embrace the calm that only He can provide. True peace begins in the quiet corners of our hearts, in the moments when the clamor of life fades just enough for us to hear the gentle whisper of the divine. It is not something that comes from the noise of achievement, the applause of men, or the fleeting comforts of this world. No, true peace is born in surrender, in the willingness to lay down our burdens and entrust them to the one who has seen the beginning and the end of every storm. We carry worries as if they are shields, as if the weight of our fears will somehow protect us from disappointment, from failure, from loss. And yet these worries are not shields at all. They are chains that bind the soul, that pull the spirit toward exhaustion, that make the heart believe that it must fight battles alone. When we surrender these worries to God, when we place them gently in the hands of the one who holds eternity in His gaze, something miraculous begins to unfold. Our hearts, once restless and heavy, begin to feel a stillness, a quiet assurance that we are not alone, that the journey we walk is guided by a purpose far greater than our understanding. We must understand that surrender is not weakness. It is the ultimate act of courage, the highest form of strength. To surrender our worries is to say, I cannot do this alone, but you, God, are greater than my fears. It is an acknowledgement that life's uncertainties are not meant to be carried on the fragile shoulders of our own understanding. When we trust in His plan, we are planting seeds of faith in the fertile soil of our hearts. And faith, like a tender plant, requires patience, nurturing, and the gentle assurance that though storms may come, roots run deep, and the light of God's wisdom will always reach us. True peace is the flowering of this faith, the quiet blossoming of trust that no matter how dark the night, the dawn is already breaking, and it will carry with it the promise of new hope, new strength, and renewed courage. Consider the mornings when your mind is restless, when your spirit trembles under the weight of unseen burdens. It is in these mornings, in the fragile light of day, that surrender begins. It begins with a word whispered in prayer, a thought offered with humility, a plea that is not demanding but trusting. God, take my worries, hold them, guide them, transform them into strength. And in that act, the first glimmers of peace touch the edges of your heart. Worry has no power where trust resides. Anxiety, with all its cunning whispers, loses its hold on the soul when faith steps in. And yet, this is not a magic trick, nor is it a sudden shift that happens without effort. It is a practice, a discipline, a conscious choice each day to hand over what we cannot carry, to believe in what we cannot yet see, and to trust in the one who has never forsaken us. Every worry that we carry is a story, a memory, a fear, a hope turned into tension. Each one of these stories deserves attention, but not the captivity of the heart. When we surrender, We are not erasing these stories. We are placing them in the hands of a higher wisdom that knows the beginning, the middle, and the end. God's plan is not a plan of haphazard luck or chance. It is a tapestry woven with threads of love, patience, and divine timing. Even when the patterns seem unclear, even when we cannot see how the threads connect, we can. Rest in the assurance that every thread matters, that every twist and turn is intentional, that nothing we offer in surrender is ever wasted. And when we grasp this truth, our spirits begin to breathe more freely, our minds begin to quiet, and the tension that knots the chest begins to unravel slowly, softly, and beautifully. There is an intimacy in surrender, a closeness to God that cannot be achieved through force or pride. It is the recognition that we are small in the vastness of the universe, yet precious in the eyes of the Creator. It is the humility to admit that our vision is limited, but His vision encompasses all time, all space, all hearts. And in that recognition, our worries, once towering and formidable, shrink into insignificance. They become not burdens to bear alone, but entrusted messages, whispered prayers carried on the wings of faith, received and answered in ways that often surpass our imagination. True peace is born here, not in the absence of trials, but in the presence of trust, in the gentle assurance that no matter how tangled the paths of life may become, they are guided by a hand that never wavers, never tires, never abandons. We live in a world that celebrates control, that applauds the ability to manage, to predict, to dominate outcomes. But control is an illusion, and prediction is a mirage. The tides of life rise and fall. The winds of circumstance shift without warning, and the landscape of our days changes with a speed and unpredictability that can unsettle even the strongest hearts. And yet within this unpredictability lies the opportunity to surrender, to let go of the illusion of control, and to step into the reality of divine care. It is here in this surrender that peace begins to settle. It does not scream, it does not demand, it does not rush, it whispers, it breathes, it flows quietly into the spaces of the heart that have been cramped with worry, and it reminds us that we are loved beyond measure, held beyond comprehension, guided beyond the limitations of our own sight. Each morning, as the sun paints the sky with colors of possibility, we are offered a fresh canvas. The worries of yesterday, no matter how heavy, no matter how sharp, are not meant to linger in the light of today. We may carry lessons from the past, scars that remind us of resilience, memories that teach us empathy, but the burdens themselves are not for our solitary keeping. Morning prayer becomes the sacred act of placing those burdens where they belong, at the feet of God, where the weight is met not with exhaustion, but with understanding, not with resistance, but with compassion, not with judgment, but with unconditional love. And in this sacred act, the heart expands, the spirit lifts, and peace is no longer a distant hope, but a living reality that courses through our being, tender yet unshakable, soft yet enduring. To trust in God's plan is to acknowledge that life is a story written with wisdom far beyond our comprehension. It is to accept that every twist, every delay, every challenge, and every triumph has its place in the grand design. And when we embrace this perspective, we are liberated from the tyranny of worry. Anxiety may visit, yes, for it is the companion of human consciousness, but it cannot stay, it cannot take root where surrender and faith reside. We find ourselves looking at life differently, not with fear, but with curiosity, not with dread, but with hope, not with tension, but with confidence that the divine orchestration of life is perfect, even when it is invisible, even when it is unseen. Peace begins in this shift of perspective. This alignment with the eternal wisdom that watches over us, guides us, and gently whispers, "I have you. I am with you. Trust me, and you will not be undone." Morning prayer is not merely a ritual. It is a sacred conversation between the soul and the divine, a dialogue that transcends the boundaries of time and space, a bridge that connects the human heart to the eternal wisdom of God. When we rise with the dawn, when the first light kisses the earth, and the birds sing their tender songs of hope and renewal, we are given an opportunity that is profound. A chance to realign our hearts with the guidance that comes not from the fleeting noise of the world, but from the steady, unfailing presence of God. This is not a practice of mere words. It is a practice of intention, a deliberate act of turning away from distractions, from fears, from the incessant clamor of worries, and turning instead toward the quiet assurance that we are known, we are loved, and we are led by a hand that has charted the course of eternity. When we speak to God in the morning, we speak not only from our minds, but from the depths of our souls. Every whispered plea, every heartfelt expression, every note of gratitude becomes a thread woven into the tapestry of divine guidance. Prayer at this hour is different. It is potent because it is untainted by the trials of the day, unburdened by the weariness of the world. It is a blank page upon which we may write our hopes, our intentions, our desires for alignment with God's will. And in this sacred act, we find clarity for our hearts, which may have been restless and uncertain, are now illuminated with the light of purpose. We begin to see the path before us not only through the eyes of reason, but through the lens of divine wisdom. Morning prayer is therefore a compass, guiding us toward choices that honor our higher calling, decisions that echo with truth, and actions that resonate with love and integrity. Consider for a moment the heart that has been weighed down by confusion, that has been tossed and turned by doubt, that has been pulled in 1,000 directions by competing voices. It is in the quiet of morning prayer that this heart finds balance, that it receives instruction from a source that never errs, never falters, never sleeps. To align our hearts with divine guidance is not to ignore the realities of life, nor to escape responsibility. Rather, it is to infuse our daily walk with insight that is greater than our own understanding, to see challenges not as obstacles, but as opportunities for growth, and to act not with fear, but with courage grounded in faith. Each morning, as we lift our hearts in prayer, we are not merely speaking to God, we are listening. We are tuning our spirits to the frequency of divine wisdom, allowing its currents to flow through us, shaping our thoughts, guiding our choices, and opening our eyes to the ways in which the universe conspires for our good. Morning prayer also teaches us the art of presence. How often do we rush through life, chasing ambitions, reacting to circumstances, clinging to control, and forgetting that the present moment is a gift? Prayer in the early hours of the day slows the heart, centers the mind, and roots the soul in awareness. It is in these moments of connection that we begin to perceive the subtle nudges of divine guidance, the gentle promptings, the quiet urgings, the insights that arise when the noise of the world is hushed and the mind is still. As our hearts align with this guidance, we begin to notice patterns in our lives. Doors opening where once there were walls, opportunities appearing where we had felt only scarcity, and a sense of peace settling into our being that assures us we are walking the path meant for us. Moreover, morning prayer cultivates a rhythm of consistency and discipline that fortifies the spirit. Just as the body thrives on nourishment and the mind flourishes with learning, the soul blossoms with the nourishment of daily dialogue with God. This practice is not about perfection, it is about presence, commitment, and intention. Each day that we offer our prayers, we are reinforcing the alignment of our hearts with divine purpose, training ourselves to recognize the subtle signs of guidance and building resilience against the storms of doubt and fear. The repetition of prayer, the cadence of sincere words, the resonance of gratitude, all act as anchors, keeping us tethered to the source of wisdom, even when the winds of life blow fiercely and unpredictably. There is also a transformative power in morning prayer that extends beyond the individual. When a heart is aligned with divine guidance, it radiates influence to those around it. A person who begins the day in conversation with God carries with them a light, a presence, a calm authority that cannot be manufactured by worldly means. Their interactions, decisions, and responses are tempered by insight that surpasses mere intellect. They are informed by a clarity that comes from communion with the eternal. Families, communities, workplaces all bear the imprint of one individual whose heart has been aligned through prayer, for the energy of guidance, once received, cannot be contained. It flows outward, touching lives, inspiring hope, and creating ripples of positive transformation that echo far beyond the private confines of personal devotion. Morning prayer also reminds us of the sacredness of our intentions. Every action we take throughout the day originates from the state of our hearts when we begin. If we start the day with chaos, worry, or fear, these energies often dictate the tone of our interactions, our decisions, and our outcomes. But when we begin with prayer, with a conscious turning toward God, we set a foundation of clarity, purpose, and alignment. This foundation acts as a guidepost, reminding us throughout the day of the principles we wish to honor, the love we wish to share, and the integrity we seek to uphold. In this way, morning prayer is not a brief ritual confined to a few minutes. It is the shaping force that informs the entirety of our day, influencing our thoughts, our words, our deeds, and ultimately the trajectory of our lives. And let us not forget the humility that prayer instills. When we approach God in the morning, we acknowledge that our understanding is limited, that our sight is partial, that our grasp on life is fragile without guidance. Yet in this humility there is empowerment. For by admitting that we are not the sole architects of our destiny, we open ourselves to the wisdom that surpasses human calculation, to the insight that sees the end from the beginning, to the love that moves mountains and transforms hearts. It is a paradox of strength. In surrendering, we gain mastery over our fears. In humbling ourselves, we discover the courage to act. In listening, we find clarity that directs us toward paths of purpose, peace, and fulfillment. Morning prayer, therefore, is both a shield and a beacon. It shields us from the chaos that seeks to invade our hearts, offering protection against the pull of anxiety, doubt, and despair. It is a sanctuary where the soul can rest, refresh, and realign, Simultaneously, it is a beacon, illuminating the way forward, guiding us with gentle certainty toward choices that resonate with divine intention, toward actions that reflect wisdom, toward moments of compassion that mirror the heart of God. And when we embrace this sacred practice, we do more than seek guidance. We become vessels of guidance, instruments through which the light of divine purpose flows into the world. Each morning, as the earth awakens, as the wind carries the promise of a new day, we are reminded that prayer is an invitation. It invites us to participate in the unfolding of a plan far greater than ourselves, to step into the rhythm of divine timing, to witness the orchestration of life with hearts attuned to its harmonies. And when we answer this invitation with devotion, sincerity, and intention, the alignment of our hearts with divine guidance becomes not a distant aspiration, but a living reality. We find that even in moments of uncertainty, even in the midst of challenges, even when the road ahead is obscured, the gentle, steady hand of God is present, guiding, directing, comforting, and inspiring. In this sacred alignment, our steps are steadier, our vision clearer, our hearts lighter, and our spirits anchored in the unshakable truth that we are never alone, that we are always guided, that every prayer, every act of faith, every whisper of intention carries with it the potential to transform our lives in ways both profound and eternal. There is a profound liberation that comes when we release the grip of anxiety from our hearts, when we stop clutching at the shadows of fear, and when we allow the burdens of worry to fall gently into the hands of the divine. Anxiety is a thief, not only of peace but of vision. It clouds the mind, tightens the chest, and steals the light from our days. We carry it as though it is a part of us, as though by holding it close we are somehow protecting ourselves from disappointment, failure, or pain. But the truth is that anxiety never protects. It confines, it limits, it narrows the field of vision, leaving little room for hope, clarity, or the radiant strength that resides deep within our souls. And when we choose to let go, when we make the conscious decision to release these fears into the care of God, a remarkable transformation begins. The heart that was once burdened becomes lighter. The spirit that was once restless becomes still. The mind that was once clouded begins to perceive the world with renewed clarity and wisdom. Letting go of anxiety is not a single act. It is a continuous journey, a practice of courage that must be reaffirmed each day, each hour, each moment. It begins with acknowledgement that the worry we carry is real, that the fear we feel is genuine, but that it is not the ultimate authority in our lives. Our worries, our fears, our doubts are not stronger than the divine who holds the universe in his hands. When we recognize this, we take the first step toward freedom, the first step toward creating space for hope to take root in the fertile soil of our hearts. Hope is not mere wishful thinking. It is a force, a light that shines even in the darkest corners, a current that moves the spirit forward, a guide that leads us toward possibilities unseen but divinely ordained. Anxiety and hope cannot dwell together in the same heart. As one leaves, the other finds room to grow. Clarity is the natural companion of released anxiety. When the mind is no longer consumed with fear, it begins to see what was always there but previously obscured. Decisions become less daunting, challenges become less overwhelming, and the path ahead, though not always clear in every detail, appears illuminated with the gentle light of divine insight. We begin to recognize patterns, to perceive opportunities, to understand the lessons embedded in every trial and triumph. Anxiety distorts, it magnifies problems and shrinks possibilities. But when we let go, clarity emerges like the sun breaking through clouds, revealing the vast landscape of potential that has always existed, waiting for us to lift our eyes and step forward in courage and faith. Inner strength, too, is born in the release of anxiety. There is a resilience that cannot flourish while the heart is weighed down by worry. Strength is not merely physical endurance or mental toughness. It is the quiet power that arises when we trust in the unseen, when we hold fast to the truth that we are not alone, when we recognize that our spirits are equipped with a reservoir of courage, patience, and wisdom far greater than we often realize. Anxiety saps this strength, leaving us fragile and reactive, but letting go replenishes it. As we surrender our fears, we discover reserves of fortitude that surprise us, capacities to endure, to forgive, to persist, and to love beyond the limitations imposed by apprehension. Inner strength flourishes not in the absence of difficulty, but in the conscious decision to face difficulty without the weight of paralyzing fear, guided by faith and fortified by hope. Letting go of anxiety also opens the heart to a deeper connection with the divine. When we release our fears, we make space for God to act, to move, to guide, to inspire. Anxiety often blinds us to the subtle ways in which the universe is working on our behalf. It narrows our perspective and convinces us that we must control every detail, when in truth, the hand of God is already at work, weaving the threads of our lives into a tapestry of purpose and grace. By surrendering anxiety, we step out of the illusion of control and into the reality of partnership with the divine. We become co-creators with God, participating in a plan far greater than our own understanding, empowered to act with courage, insight, and compassion. The process of letting go requires both honesty and vulnerability. We must name our fears, confront them, and then release them with intention. This is not a passive act. It is an active choice to trust, to believe, to hope. It is the declaration that while life may present challenges, while circumstances may be uncertain, we will not allow fear to dictate our responses, limit our vision, or steal our joy. And in this act of courage, we invite a transformation that touches every aspect of our lives. Relationships become richer because we are no longer reactive. Work becomes more fruitful because we are no longer distracted by worry. Daily living becomes more vibrant because the heart is open to the fullness of experience rather than closed in fear. Letting go of anxiety is also an act of self-love. It is a recognition that we deserve peace, clarity, and strength. To hold on to fear constantly is to deny ourselves the fullness of life. It is to live in a shadowed existence, always anticipating disaster, always bracing for pain. But when we release these fears, we step into the light of self-respect, self-compassion, and self-empowerment. We acknowledge that our hearts are worthy of calm, our minds are worthy of clarity, our spirits are worthy of strength. In doing so, we create a foundation upon which a life of purpose, joy, and meaningful connection can be built, free from the chains of constant worry and fear. The world around us often reinforces anxiety. We are bombarded with messages of scarcity, danger, competition, and uncertainty. It can feel as though fear is omnipresent, that the storms of life will never end, that we must always be on guard. But in the practice of letting go, we resist this cultural current. We choose a different rhythm, a different frequency. We choose to attune our hearts to hope, to clarity, and to strength, rather than to the panic and dread that the world insists upon. We practice discernment, choosing what to absorb, what to release, and what to trust to the divine. Each act of letting go is an act of empowerment, a reclaiming of our inner space, a declaration that while we cannot control all events, we can control our response, our focus, and our trust. Letting go of anxiety is also intimately connected to gratitude. When we release fear, we create space to notice the blessings that already surround us, the warmth of the morning sun, the laughter of loved ones, the quiet moments of reflection, the beauty of life itself. Gratitude and anxiety cannot coexist in the same heart. One displaces the other. As we let go of worry, we become more attuned to the goodness present in our lives, more capable of recognizing the small miracles that might otherwise pass unnoticed. And in recognizing these gifts, hope is nourished, clarity is sharpened, and strength is renewed. The heart that has learned to release fear begins to see the world with a lens of abundance rather than scarcity, of opportunity rather than limitation, of possibility rather than defeat. Letting go is not a one-time event. It is a daily, hourly, moment-by-moment practice. The mind may wander back to fear, the heart may tighten in anxiety, the world may present new challenges. But each time we consciously choose to release, to surrender, to trust, we strengthen the pathways of peace within us. Each act of letting go reinforces the habit of faith, the muscle of courage, and the rhythm of hope. Over time, what was once a struggle becomes a natural state of being, a pattern of life in which the soul operates from a place of calm, clarity, and unshakable strength, no longer burdened by the weight of imagined catastrophes or the shadows of what-ifs. And so, the practice of releasing anxiety is transformative. It reshapes the mind, it restores the heart, it revives the spirit. It allows us to step fully into the present, to meet challenges with composure, to embrace opportunities with courage, and to navigate the complexities of life with wisdom and grace. As anxiety falls away, hope rises to fill the void. Clarity illuminates the path forward. Inner strength emerges, unencumbered and resilient. It is in this sacred space of release that life unfolds in its truest, most abundant form. A life marked not by fear, but by faith, not by limitation, but by possibility, not by tension, but by the expansive freedom of a heart aligned with divine purpose. There is a sacred rhythm to life, a cadence that emerges when we choose to cultivate a daily connection with God, a rhythm that transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, that turns the mundane moments of existence into spaces of profound peace, deep insight, and unshakable serenity. Each day is filled with countless events, interactions, and obligations, and yet so often we move through these moments unaware of their divine potential, unaware that within each tick of the clock, within each breath we draw, there lies an opportunity to touch eternity. The connection we forge with God every day, no matter how brief, no matter how simple, is the key to unlocking this transformation, the lens through which the ordinary becomes luminous, the gateway through which the struggles of life are softened, and the heart is infused with a quiet, enduring calm to connect with God daily is to enter a sacred dialogue, a conversation that surpasses mere words. It is to speak with honesty, with humility, with gratitude, and to listen with the attentive silence of the soul. The ordinary tasks of life, washing dishes, walking to work, preparing meals, tending to responsibilities, become acts imbued with spiritual significance when we approach them with this awareness. A simple breath can be a prayer. A moment of stillness can become a sanctuary. A glance at the sky can open the heart to wonder. In these small acts, we begin to notice the presence of the divine, not as a distant force, but as an intimate companion, walking beside us, guiding us, whispering assurances, and shaping our perception of the world in ways both subtle and profound. Daily connection with God also fosters resilience. Life, as we know, is not without challenges. There are moments of disappointment, of pain, of uncertainty, when the storms of circumstance threaten to overturn the fragile vessels of our hearts. And yet, when we are in consistent communion with the divine, these storms lose their power to terrify us completely. The heart that is rooted in daily prayer and reflection is fortified. It learns to bend without breaking, to absorb the trials of life without losing its integrity, to face the unknown with a courage that is drawn not from self-reliance, but from the wellspring of divine support. In ordinary moments when we may feel unremarkable, unnoticed, or inadequate, this connection reminds us of our purpose, of our worth, and of the fact that no matter how small the act, no matter how quiet the moment, every step taken in faith contributes to the unfolding of a life aligned with divine intention. Consider the mornings when the world seems heavy, when responsibilities pile upon us and our spirits are weary from the exertions of yesterday. It is in these ordinary, even burdensome moments that a daily connection with God can illuminate the path before us. A whispered prayer, a moment of reflection, an expression of gratitude, or simply a conscious awareness of God's presence can transform what feels like obligation into opportunity, what feels like burden into blessing, and what feels like repetition into rhythm. The ordinary is no longer something to endure. It becomes the sacred terrain on which our spirits grow, our hearts expand, and our understanding of peace deepens. We begin to see the divine fingerprints in the smallest details, the gentle warmth of sunlight on the skin, the soft rustle of leaves, the laughter of a child, the quiet reliability of the elements around us. Each becomes a reminder that God's presence permeates all things, and that by maintaining connection, even the most routine acts become infused with meaning and grace. Daily connection with God is also a practice of attentiveness. It calls us to slow down, to be present, to notice the subtleties of life that otherwise pass us by in the haste of routine. There is an artistry in noticing, a wisdom in pausing, a sacredness in observing. Through prayer, meditation, and intentional reflection, we attune our senses to the divine rhythm. We listen for the whisper of guidance. We become aware of the ways in which our lives are interwoven with greater patterns of love, purpose, and destiny. In this attentiveness, peace emerges naturally because the heart that is focused, that is aware, that is connected, does not become easily overwhelmed. It perceives the larger picture. It understands the impermanence of trials, and it learns to rejoice in the fleeting beauties, the transient blessings, and the ordinary miracles that fill each day. Moreover, a daily connection with God nurtures gratitude, and gratitude is a gateway to peace. When we are attuned to the divine, we begin to notice not only what is lacking in our lives, but what is abundantly present. We recognize the gifts that surround us, both grand and subtle, and we cultivate a heart that is thankful for both the challenges that teach us resilience and the joys that remind us of beauty. Gratitude shifts perspective from scarcity to abundance, from despair to hope, from tension to tranquility. It is in this space of appreciation that ordinary moments transform into extraordinary experiences, because the heart, when grateful, no longer takes the world for granted. It perceives the sacred in every interaction, every task, every encounter, and every breath. Peace, therefore, is not imposed from without, but emerges from within, as the natural consequence of alignment with divine awareness and sustained attention to God's presence. This connection also teaches patience. The ordinary moments of life often demand endurance, waiting in lines, listening to difficult conversations, navigating the demands of work, handling the unpredictability of human relationships. These moments, though seemingly trivial, offer fertile ground for spiritual growth when approached with conscious connection to God. Through daily prayer and reflection, we learn to temper our impatience, to approach life's slow rhythms with grace, and to recognize that time itself is a gift orchestrated by divine wisdom. Patience born of this connection is not passive. It is an active, engaged, hopeful patience rooted in faith that God's timing is perfect, that each moment has its place in the grand tapestry, and that even the ordinary intervals of life contribute to our ultimate understanding, resilience, and peace. Furthermore, the daily connection shapes character. The heart that converses with God regularly becomes attuned to higher virtues, compassion, humility, generosity, forgiveness, and integrity. These qualities are not simply abstract ideals, they are practical instruments through which ordinary life becomes extraordinary. Each act of kindness, each moment of self-restraint, each choice to respond with love rather than anger, each decision to speak truth rather than falsehood becomes magnified in significance, because it flows from a heart aligned with the divine. Life's ordinary challenges, the moments of conflict, the encounters with imperfection, the inevitability of mistakes become opportunities to exercise virtue, to reflect divine character, and to cultivate a spirit that is serene, resilient, and luminous. This is how daily connection transforms ordinary life. It turns every interaction into a canvas for grace, every difficulty into a lesson in wisdom, and every simple moment into a chance to manifest peace. Daily connection with God also cultivates trust. In ordinary moments, it is easy to doubt, to question, to fear. Yet consistent communion fosters a deep-seated confidence that we are guided, supported, and known beyond measure. This trust does not eliminate challenges, it transforms how we respond to them. Where anxiety might have ruled, faith now leads. Where confusion might have clouded our vision, clarity emerges. Where discouragement might have taken hold, hope rises. Life, when experienced through the lens of daily connection, becomes less a series of burdens to bear and more a journey to navigate. A sacred pilgrimage in which even the simplest acts are imbued with purpose, and even the routine rhythms of the day resonate with eternal significance. The heart learns to rely not on its own strength alone, but on the inexhaustible wisdom, power, and love of God, finding security in alignment rather than in control. Daily connection also encourages creativity and presence. The mind that begins the day in conversation with God finds itself more attentive, more inspired, more capable of discerning solutions and seeing beauty. Moments that might otherwise be wasted, pauses, waiting, repetitive tasks are transformed into opportunities for reflection, inspiration, and insight. This heightened awareness allows ordinary experiences to take on extraordinary dimensions. A conversation with a friend becomes deeper, a gesture of kindness more intentional, a task performed with greater care and mindfulness. Through this daily practice, peace is not merely a feeling, but a pervasive quality that infuses thought, action, and perception. The ordinary is no longer dull, it is vibrant. The routine becomes sacred. The mundane transforms into moments of transcendence. Through the sustained practice of daily connection, the soul is nurtured in ways that are cumulative and enduring. One day of prayer and reflection lays the foundation. Another day builds upon it. Over time, the spirit is strengthened, the heart softened, and the mind clarified. Peace, therefore, is not a fleeting emotion, but a state of being cultivated deliberately, sustained through devotion, and experienced as a natural consequence of alignment with the divine. The ordinary life, approached with intention, becomes the extraordinary life, and each day, each moment, each breath is a testament to the transformative power of a heart attuned to God.